Hey guys, so I made a video a couple days ago about what I would do if I were 40 and single and wanted a baby, and I'd been trying to create this experience and it just kept eluding me. And in a nutshell, what I said in that video was, what I would do is I would separate out whatever small percentage of this problem that this thing has grown into, not having has turned into, separate out the desire for the actual experience of motherhood and being somebody's wife versus all of the many things that have been piled on top of that, including probably some expectations of fulfillment that you have from the experience itself, that you may not really be something that you can get from that, some things that you have to do for yourself. That was my general response to that. And in the comments, some people who are in that position, were talking about how they're feeling about it. And it made me really sad, honestly. And so it's like 8:48 a.m. I woke up at like 6 today. I have literally been in my car since like 7 a.m. trying to make a video about this. And I just keep stopping and deleting it and getting frustrated and having this angst about it because, I was thinking, God, it must be time for me to tell my story again, like about how I came up with the mental shifts that, brought about the release from that. And then, like it does, like when you have a desire that doesn't have a bunch of shit on top of it, it's just so easy for it to manifest. It just is. Matt, my fiance, showed up like 6 months later. He had been there the whole 6 months, and I wasn't like, oh, is that a guy that could do it? Is that the guy that could do this for me? He just didn't even like show up on the radar. He was just there talking to me, and then boom, one day we had a connection, and that was it. The rest is history. Literally, it happened immediately, essentially. So this shit happened just without me even trying, and when I wasn't even really sure I cared anymore, like it does, so the question really is, what do you do? What does it mean to change this stuff for yourself, to do it for yourself? What does that actually mean? And so I was going to try to tell my story about this. And I just realized the specifics, most of the specifics of my experience don't matter because they're not going to be what it is for you. This is going to be really personal for you. And I think I said this in the other video too. Intending to know what these things are is essential. It's just being willing. But when it comes to women having problems in relationships with men, I think generally speaking, for most people, this is the rule. I'm sure there are exceptions. This shit comes from trauma with your father. It's trying to replay an event or create a similar type of relationship to the one that you had that you didn't get what you wanted from, and now you want to try to get it. It's like you're replaying this drama to try to have a different outcome. It's the relationship with your father that matters. And that may come as a total shock to you, and you might not believe it, and you might just click off this video right now. And I think that's what I would have done, honestly, because before I started to make the connection, I really just thought my relationship with my father was fine. I didn't think that anything was coming from that. It seemed totally separate. In fact, I felt like my relationship with my father was one of the few things in my life that was just uncomplicated and didn't cause any problems, and that I didn't really have any feelings about, and didn't have any resentment, didn't feel like I was carrying any deep pain or hurt about it. Just, and it was really surprising to me that I felt that way because, it didn't seem like it should have been that way. It seemed like I should have been really deeply affected by him leaving and by the distant relationship we have. And I just thought, no, I have a good relationship with my dad because the relationship that we did have was good. It just was barely ever there. So if you're a woman and you're having problems creating this outer relationship with a man that isn't toxic or distant or abusive or something like that, look, it's your father that you want, not this loser that you're dating, okay? Or, you know, not these string of losers that you're going through one by one and just going, what the hell? That guy was a total loser, and I couldn't even get him to want to be with me. I couldn't even get him to give me what I wanted, you know, as if people are just capable of, you know, as if these like people that are in a low state are capable of giving you something that only a person from a high state could give you. If you're in that position, the solution to getting out of it is being willing to understand where it's coming from, who it's coming from, and what it is that you really want, which is not to have this relationship show up and make everything okay, but to actually be healed from the original experience. And all that even means, you know, be healed. I used to hate that phrase too. All that means is that you are able to understand what that taught you, what you believe, what you took as a belief from that, what you decided that meant about you, just everything like that. And to realize that all those things that are causing pain and causing you to continually play out this drama aren't true. You know, figure out what the truth is, and hopefully be able to see the actual person that is the source of all of this, and be able to look at them with compassion and understand where they were coming from, and release them from any kind of blame, you know, because that doesn't help either. I think sometimes it can help a little bit in the beginning to shift the blame from yourself onto, you know, the party that really, if anybody's going to be blamed, is the one that should be taking the blame. But, you know, you have to let that go too at some point, because really this is just a giant clusterfuck of everybody doing the best that they can. And very rarely is anybody intentionally trying to harm you, even if it seems like they are. So for basically anything like this that's eluding you, where you're looking at this outer 3D manifestation as the thing that's going to fix it, when you have something like that, there's this thing that will fix this, and I just can't get it. When you have that thing is just standing in front of the true source of relief from this striving. And it's whatever happened probably early in your life that is unresolved. You know, for some people, I think this isn't even necessarily like about their father. It could be about just the family environment that they didn't have, that now they're trying to recreate to right that wrong. You know, when you have this just big desire for a family, or I don't know, because I have literally no desire to have a baby and never have. I don't know if that is also something like this, where that's to right a wrong. You know, I never got all the love that I wanted, and if I have a baby, then I'll have something that always loves me. I don't know, you know, that's just my best guess with that. I don't know if that too is coming from a damaged place. But, you know, all this shit, all these videos about manifestation and everything are great, and they really do a good job of helping you get the things that aren't being super influenced by one of these traumatic events that cause you to believe all these things that now cause pain, that now you're looking to something outside of you to fix. It's all, you know, it's great. And that's like the basic manifestation stuff is absolutely spot on. And, you know, visualizing things and knocking down your resistance to them, that works really well for things that are easily changed, or things that don't need any changing at all. You know, if you're really clear in any area, you'll probably have a really easy time creating stuff in that area. Like for me, I thank God, I've just been really clear in the area of money. And that's thanks to sort of the luck of the draw for me. You know, my environment growing up never included any worry about money. It never included almost anything unhealthy about money. My parents did a fucking great job of protecting us from any notion of any, you know, it's just like, you don't have to worry about that. You're a kid. You don't worry about money. And they also didn't spoil me to the degree that they could have. But they just, if they had any financial concerns, they were never discussed in front of me. And in fact, it was such a non-issue for me that it took me about a decade after, my problem from that became that I felt really wealthy even when I didn't have any money. I felt really well off when I didn't have any money, and I had to learn how not to just be ridiculous and frivolous with spending. So that really wasn't that difficult either. I had to go bankrupt though in my 20s because I just got credit cards and spent, and just kind of always felt like the money will come and to pay this off. And it wasn't until I was able to, get more disciplined and in a better place with myself that all of that stuff righted itself. And then boom, it was just it's natural for me to have enough money that I don't worry about it or think about it too much. And now that that's been fine-tuned, it's just been so easy for me to accumulate money and to build a successful business and all that stuff. And that was where I was able to really see the magic of manifestation, because that all just happened so quickly and easily and without much, mental strife or any of that. Just be like, okay, I need to know what the next step is for this. I'm ready for this. And boom, as soon as I was ready, it would show up. And so that's kind of the magic of the intention and divine intelligence playing a role and meeting the right people at the right time and all that. But when you have something that is deeply embedded, that is a trauma, and you're playing this out over and over again, and even worse, it's almost like as time goes by, it's almost like you rely on it more and more as the solution. That is a mask. And I don't know if I've already said this in this video because I've tried to make this 5 times. But I know that this can be a hard thing to accept and come around to, that the thing that I really am just so intensely focused on fixing my life is not the thing that's going to fix my life. It can be really difficult to fully get to a point where you can let go of that idea enough for something else to happen for you, like you being able to discover what it is that's causing it and discover the things that it taught you and unravel those things. And it can be really hard to accept that, but it is the best thing ever when you figure that out and it's gone. You then have the effect. You then have the thing that you think you're going to get from this manifestation that you can't get. You have it without the thing. And then you don't even give a shit about it. It's the best. I will say this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I don't even have to think about this for 1 second. I would absolutely never be in a relationship again. If I could hear myself, 5 years ago, I could hear myself saying this, I would think I had been body snatched. I would gladly never be in a relationship again, a romantic relationship. I would face the rest of my life as a single woman. I would change all of the batteries in my own smoke detector forever. If it was choosing between that and having had this mental shift and having realized what I had decided about myself thanks to all of the shit that had happened with my dad as a child, which was never anything abusive. It was just straight up distance and having been left, and what I took that to mean without even consciously realizing it. That's the problem with these things that are created in childhood, is that sometimes they're so big that a million things go into what you take that to mean about you. And so it's one of those things that maybe you can't even begin to rationally pick apart, which is how I like to do things. It's the best thing ever. And the same thing with this recent thing that, this recent intention that I had to be freed from this idea that I had to look a certain way in order to be a valid human being. Like I manhandled the 3D. I manifested. Like I made this happen. I got myself into as perfect physical shape as I could get myself into in order to try to get this relationship that would fix everything when I was 38, 39. And once I had this big mental shift about my dad and I figured all that out and I realized, oh my God, I don't need a relationship, that relieved a ton of it. And I was already in really good shape at that point, you know, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm in like a great place right now. That's where I started this channel. But it, you know, over time it nagged at me. You know, I fixed this thing where I feel like I have to be perfect. Yes, I don't have to have that for the relationship anymore, but I still feel like I have to be perfect, you know, in order to be valid, like a valid human being, like in order to be okay, I have to weigh 120. I cannot weigh a pound more than that, or it is a disaster. And I was just like, dude, this is its own issue. This is coming from somewhere else. I want to be free of this. And knowing what I know, like I just said, I would gladly be single for the rest of my life and have had this mental understanding than to go back to that point and have a relationship, you know, like if somebody said, hey, you can have Matt, but you have to go back to the mentality you were in 2019. Fuck that. Like, fuck that hard, immediately, forever. I would absolutely say, Matt, I love you, but I choose me. And I've had a very similar experience with this, this thing about having to be perfect, having to look a certain way, having to weigh a certain amount specifically. But not just that. It's not just weight either. Like I see circles around my eyes, and you know, it's been a really interesting last few years coming through this recent intention. And you know, it's funny. It took me all the way. I gained 30 pounds in the meantime, because that had to be part of it. Thanks a lot, whoever coordinated this. I had to gain 30 pounds and sit here for a year before I was able to just kind of like deal with it and just say, look, deal with the fact that you're fine the way you are right now, because it's true. That part was important. Getting to this weight I'm at now, I weigh 150, getting to this weight I'm at now and legitimately getting to the point where I was just like, fuck it. Like, what? This is not worth the angst it's caused. Just the things that had to come from sitting in the physical unpleasant place. Mission accomplished. But earlier this year, I realized there's no way this isn't exactly like the thing with Dad. Like, these were the two big issues in my life. I'm not good enough, and if I were just good enough, then I could get this relationship that would prove I was just good enough, that I'm good enough. It's the same thing. I'm like, there has to be an origin for this. And I suspect it's coming from the other parent. Took care of Dad, undid all the damage from Dad. This has to be coming from Mom. You know, she really cares how things look, and this is a really obvious one, but I don't have a clue. I have no idea. You know, I have no idea what this was. I'm just going to be honest with you. And this is really wild, and this is why just setting an intention and just going with it is what is the easiest, fastest way to get the answers you want. In January this year, I just said, all right, there's got to be, like, this has to be stemming from somewhere. Okay, the divorce, my dad leaving, our relationship, that was the relationship thing. Mom's got to be the reason for this. She's the obvious culprit. What happened? Like, there has to be an event that caused this. You know, because I've remembered all these other events and other ways that have caused beliefs. I'm like, you know, there's a before and after here. Like, this thing where I punished myself with food, although I wasn't aware that I was punishing myself at the time in January. This thing with food, this started somewhere, because I started thinking about it and I was like, this was not always there. Like, as a kindergartner, I did not comfort myself with food. I'm pretty certain about this. You know, I'm like, somewhere in there, something happened. And so this is how it played out. There is an astrologer on YouTube who I really like. And I decided, for the fuck of it, because I doubled my business in December. At the end of January, I'm rolling in the dough. And I was like, dude, you know what? I'm going to have him read my chart just for fun. I love what he says. Like it's not the astrology that I love about this guy. It's his perspective on everything. You know, it's like listening to a psychology channel. And I was like, I'm going to have him read my chart and see what he says about it. And he wasn't able to get it done until almost the end of March. But literally in the first 5 minutes of this astrology chart, he said to me, he said, and you know, I don't know if this makes me a believer in astrology or not, but he said, paraphrasing, your mother had expectations for who you were going to be. And around the age of 7, 8 years old for you, she realized this isn't it, which is absolutely true. Absolutely true. I was such a disappointment. My mom wanted me to be a mini her and could not be more different in so many ways. And you know, when he said this in this reading, I just thought, oh my God, like this is such basic psychology. Okay, I knew it was coming from her, but I never quite heard it phrased like that before. And that is absolutely what it is. At some point, I developed an independent personality and she did not like it. And she made it clear, and our relationship changed around that age. And I just thought, okay, well, that's it. How else was I going to comfort myself? You know, when I was essentially rejected by my mother at some age. And, you know, I'm sure, knowing my mother, I'm sure she did the best she could to not put that on me. Or maybe she didn't. I really don't know. She was a good mother, and I wouldn't trade her. I wouldn't roll the dice because of the example that she set. You know, she made me into who I am in so many ways. There's no reason to have any animosity about this. But I was just like, okay, yeah, of course. That did happen. I know that happened. This isn't even news to me. You know, that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense. Like, think about it. I'm this kid, turned 7, 8. I started interacting with the kids at school. I developed a personality. My best friend growing up and her family were crazy. I'm sure I picked up plenty of that because I thought they were the coolest people ever. And she just didn't like how I was starting to be. And my parents were kind of hands off. You know, they didn't do a lot of sit down and talk to you and tell you stuff. They just sort of expressed disapproval and hoped that was good enough. And that is certainly what happened. You know, there were so many events where I received that message that I couldn't even begin to sort them out. But that alone, having that realization alone, it felt very similar. It wasn't an overnight shift like this thing with my dad when I realized that. I got to circle back to that because I am going to talk about the event that really changed things. With this thing with my mom, it started, you know, just having this realization that it was like I'm feeling like I want to sigh from relief right now, even recalling this from whatever it was 2 months ago. I remember thinking, oh, thank God. Like, I wasn't just born this way. Because for the longest time, just like with my dad, I had thought I was just born bad. With the thing with I need to be perfect and I have this issue with food and that's the thing that's stopping me from being perfect. For the longest time, I was like, I was just born this way. I've always felt this way as long as I could remember. Like, after, you know, eventually I finally came to the point where I was like, no, that's not true. Remember that I wasn't like this as a kindergarten, like a little kid. And then finally coming to this astrology reading of all things that thankfully was coming through this very wise person who was able to make whatever connections he makes. And then I get this clue. I wasn't always this way. This is not me. It's not core to me. This is something that got added on. This is like a crappy, rotten add-on, which was just amazing to remember or to, you know, figure out. Like, this is another belief system. This is another thing, another form of I'm bad. And the inability, whenever it's there, the inability to control myself with specifically sugar. The inability to control myself with that is just the way that this comes out and punishes me. Like I'm using that, that's just a behavior. That's just a mechanism. It's not something that's part of me. So that was great. And that started me moving in the right direction. I was like, okay, I'm onto it. I'm going to get it. I'm coming for it. I'm going to get it. And I did. And it was on the first day of the Emmett Fox 7-day mental diet. Who knew? Who knew that the mental diet would do it? But it did. This event. And I remember I was texting my friend Tim Grimes. I'm only saying that because there is a record of this. I was texting him when this went down, when the astrology thing went down. I'm sure everybody I was talking to at the time was like, you're a fucking nut job. But I was telling him this. I don't know if I told him those exact details. But I was saying there's got to be an event because there's still something happening here. Like this memory of this was not enough, or this putting this together was not enough. That this came from this specific era of childhood and this specific parental issue. Okay, I started comforting myself with food when I was experiencing disapproval. That passes the test for me. I don't specifically remember that being it, but that makes sense to me. I could see that. In fact, it's the only thing that makes sense to me. But I could not remember. I was like, there's got to be an event here. There's got to be some event in here that I experienced that set this off. Where's the first time this happened? I want to remember the first time that I felt so bad about myself in relation to my mom that I, decided I felt so bad I needed to go do something about it. I don't remember actually eating in response to this, but I'm certain that it's the event because it came rushing back to me. It wasn't the first time I've remembered it over the years. This is one of my memories from childhood that I've thought of here and there. Don't know why, now I do. There was this incident where my mom brought me a present. She bought me a record. She had built it up a little bit. I think she had told me she was bringing me a gift and I hoped it was something else. And I reacted really like a brat to it not being what I wanted. And we couldn't have had too many of these interactions before that point because her reaction was very severe, very unloving. And it was like a slap in the face because I wasn't expecting it. I don't think I had ever experienced that from my mom before in my life. Or that was the moment at which I became self-aware and thought, there's something wrong with me for having just reacted this way. And I hurt my mom, the person I love the most in the whole world. I just hurt my mom. Of course, as a 6 or 7-year-old, I had no clue, about what sort of effect. Obviously, looking back on it now, I'm like, God, she was probably just like, what a brat. It probably didn't affect her almost at all. But at the time, it was the biggest thing. I mean, I can still remember it. And when I remembered this, Matt happened to walk in the room right when I was making this connection on April 24th. So like a month ago, he happened to walk in the room right when I was making this connection. I was like, I just figured this out, Matt. And I started telling him about this memory and instantly started re-experiencing it. Instantly felt all the emotions. It felt like it was in my body right here. It was like it was sitting right in there. And all this pain just started coming out. I got choked up and I was like horrified because Matt was horrified. He wasn't expecting that. And I was crying as I was telling him this from this like rational, like it was just happening. And then after it was over, I was just like, oh my God, that was definitely it. Did you see what just happened? Like, did you see how I reacted? I just relived that. That's where it started. I know that's where it started. I know that's the thing I've been trying to remember. It was like one of the most exciting moments of my life. No shit. And since then, it's been gone. It's been gone. The drive to punish myself using food has been gone. The drive to eat to keep myself at an uncomfortable weight is gone. I've lost 6 pounds without trying at all. Like, I can tell you for sure, I've been eating less, I've been eating different food. I have not had a morsel of sugar since that day. Sugar instantly started seeming completely disgusting to me. I kind of hope that changes at some point, but I guess I'm okay if it doesn't. It just instantly seemed completely unappealing. This thing I've been using to abuse myself. When this urge to abuse myself, because in that moment with my mother, I'm bad, I need to be punished. Oh my God, there's something wrong with me. Look what I just did to my mother. I just hurt my mother. Like, holy fuck. I mean, it was just gone. There was no more urge to abuse myself, no more urge to punish myself by keeping myself at a weight that I'm not happy at, that also worked perfectly to, make it so that I'm not perfect, and therefore, all this shit, this perfectly woven thing, all just coming unraveled. So that was the other, and it's like, think about it, was that a trauma? I mean, the experience of my mother disapproving of me and rejecting me, which she absolutely did, and our relationship now is great and has been for a long time. We've never been distant. So all that shit, like it does, works itself out over the years. I'm not mad at her for that. God, if anything, I can totally empathize with her, what she was going through in her marriage at the time. There's no need to blame. But, having gone through that, is it a trauma? Yes. Caleb was saying this in his video that I linked the other day. Caleb from the Golden Link with Caleb. He was talking about the trauma, and he's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Everything he said is completely right. I speak from personal experience now, having worked out every major thing in my life, and being on the other side of all of it. There's no major issue left for me. They all stemmed from this trauma around this age of 7, 8, 9, and apparently 12 is the worst age that you can be as a girl, to be left by your father. So they all came from these experiences, and you might not think of what you went through as trauma. That's the problem. Forget the word trauma if you don't like that. You might not think of what you went through as a child as being impactful enough to be causing this outer thing, but the way it is that this outer thing is there. That's the heart of this manifestation concept, is that your outer world is just a creation of your inner world. And so if you're looking in your life and there's something that is just consistently not there, consistently out of reach, consistently painful or wrong, or shows up in the wrong form, it's coming from one of those. If it's coming from childhood for you, probably, but I don't know. It could be coming from something that happened as an adult. If you had a major trauma in your life, something that is considered traumatic, and you feel like you were not touched by that, and you have a problem in your life that is continuing, almost 100%, those two things are a pair, even if they don't seem like they have anything to do with each other. To this day, I have never, okay, this isn't totally true. Let me just say it anyway. To this day, I have never felt like I experienced a bunch of trauma as a kid with my father. Like, I didn't go back, like with the thing with my mom that I just talked about. I didn't go back to any event in childhood with my dad and remember this and go, oh my God, and like cry and have so almost exactly a year after, this is so fucked up. Almost exactly a year after I had this big mental shift where I realized that all of these problems with relationships were coming from the relationship with my father as a child, the fact that he had left and what I had decided that meant about me, and that I was looking for some relationship to prove to me that that wasn't true, essentially. About a year after that, my dad got sick, and he died a few months later. And I've talked about that here. I went down and took care of him for a lot of that time. And it was really weird because our relationship isn't like the one I have with my mom, where it's just kind of like, it's always been there and it's constant interaction. So everything's kind of, worked out or whatever. With him, it's always been distant. And I don't, jury's out on a lot of stuff with him, but it was very distant. And I was in a very weird position during that because I had just met Matt a few months earlier and he was with me. So, and the situation with my dad was just utter chaos. It took everything I had just to keep my shit together, make sure I didn't blow up at Matt, who didn't deserve anything, you know. It took everything I had to keep my shit together. After he died, something weird happened that I did not see coming. And that was, for about 6 weeks, I was just super fucking mad at him. And I just remember telling my mom like a month later, I'm like, I don't want to talk about Dad. I'm super pissed at Dad. Like, as if he was alive. I was like, I don't want to talk about him. She would bring him up, you know, because he was her high school sweetheart and they were married for a long time before they divorced. And she was hurting too, I think, that he was gone. She never got to see him again because of COVID. And I was just like, don't talk about him. I don't want to talk about him. I'm so pissed at him. And that, I think, was coming from, I just was feeling like he never loved me. He never wanted me. Look how it was in the end here. Like, he never tried to have a conversation with me. He never tried to right anything, any of the wrongs from the past. You know, he didn't even say, hey, I really love you. I think he was in denial about dying all the way until the day he died. But, you know, I just got home and was like, he never loved me. For like 6 weeks, I was just like, he never loved me. Matt's like, that's not true. Thank God for Matt. He's like, that's not true. I saw how he, you know, I saw the look on his face when he hugged you and when you were leaving. And he's like, no. He's like, these old guys, they just can't do it. You know, they're from then a different generation, which is true, you know. But I just could not. I was just like, he never loved me. He never wanted me. He never wanted me. And that's, I think, sort of what I went through. The emotional sort of getting over that was kind of the release from all that shit. Eventually I just came around to just admit you're sad your dad's gone, and you're sad that you didn't have a better relationship. You're sad that this book has been closed. The story has been written. It wasn't how you wanted it to be. But, you know, come on, dude. He fucking loved you. He did the best he could. That's where I ended up with that. And I think I'm okay now with that. So that was kind of my cathartic moment with that. And watching Long Island Medium has also helped, by the way. I'm going to have to make a video about that soon, because what Long Island Medium does is fucking crazy. She just like heals people instantly, whether what she's doing is even real or not, which the jury is firmly out for me, and I've watched 9 seasons now. You know, what she is doing is just changing people's beliefs instantly. So and she is living proof that your whole experience is being created by your beliefs. So all of that to say that the things you're trying to manifest and you're not getting, they are likely because of what you have decided about yourself in relation to a trauma in your life. And a trauma might not be something that even seems like a trauma. It might be a childhood event that you would feel so dumb saying this was a trauma. Look up Kevin Smith's video that he put out not long ago about trauma. Watch that. If any of this is ringing a bell for you, watch Kevin Smith's video. Just, I think really what I really wanted to say, I love Matt so much. And really what I wanted to say, and the point I was trying to make is, even though I love him so much, if I had to choose between him and having dealt with this stuff, I choose having dealt with this stuff. And I hope that other people will start to make that choice because of what I'm saying here. You still get all the stuff you want. You'll get what you want. You'll get what you want. Trust me. What you really want is to have this stuff worked out. And then if the desire is still there, boom, it'll just get filled. You won't even have to think about it once you're through all this stuff. And you'll be able to have it then. And you'll be able to experience it the way it's meant to be experienced. Not in this sick way where it needs to be something for you and fill a gap for you and fix everything. You know, it's so worth doing this stuff and approaching it this way. And really it all starts with an intention. It starts with believing that. You know, if you can't believe it, I just told you, I just gave you all the evidence in the world. Like, Am I really that different from everybody else? Just believe it. Believe that it's not the manifestation that's going to do it. And believe that you can heal from all this shit and intend to go down that path. That's all you have to do. The intention will open your eyes to the things that you need to see, the people you need to talk to. This is a very simple process, just not always easy. You have to persist with the intention, and you will get there eventually, and it is glorious. And I'm saying this from a place of being completely and totally unburdened by any major thing anymore. And I can't believe how good that feels. It's like, man, unburdening myself of the thing with my dad was so amazing. I could never have imagined that there was another one equally as awesome still. I had no idea how that intention to be free of this I need to be perfect thing was going to play out. And what a big deal it was going to be, and how wonderful it was going to be on the other side. I never believed that I could have a normal existence when it came to my appearance and food. Like, it's a different life. Like, I imagine that this is what normal people feel like. I imagine I have the normal level of stress about my appearance as the average, like, not totally screwed up woman has. Like when I've seen women aging gracefully and not seeming to be troubled by it, I was just like, how do you do that? And this is getting really long now, but for the last year, I've been totally planning to get a lower blepharoplasty, which is where they go in through your eyelid, right in here. They just like make an incision and take this bag out here so that you no longer have this line. I used to get filler to fill this in, and that stopped being an option a year ago for a variety of reasons. I was totally planning on doing this. I had a consultation with like the best eye guy for this. I was going to go to another state to get it done. It's not even a big deal. It's not even a big procedure. It's not even painful or anything. But I was like, I'm going to go to the best guy to get this done. Then my eyes will look perfect. And since this has happened, specifically since the astrology thing that even alerted me, because that was like a big part of this for me, was even recognizing that it came from something, not from me. That was enough to start to release that I need to be perfect thing. And man, I'm just like, about this eye thing, I'm like, well, should I do it or should I not? Like, a huge part of me is just like, there is no reason for that. And I'm like, yeah, but I could do it, and then it'd be it's like this inner conflict going on about it now, where I was just so excited to get it done before, and now I'm just like, that's the effect that this has. It changes you, which then changes how you're thinking and looking at things. And I said to Matt last night, I said, listen, I haven't gone in the sun in like 20 years. And lately I've been thinking, people have even been commenting on this channel, like, you're my inspiration for not going in the sun. It's like 85 degrees out. It's May. I want to go and lay out in the fucking sun for once in my life. I said to Matt last night, look, I just want you to know, I think I'm just going to like go full prune. I think I'm just going to spend the rest of my days just laying in the sun, laying on the beach. And I hope you're okay with that. And I was like, if you need to leave me for another girl, I understand. Of course, he laughed at that. Matt's the best. So anyway, I'm just going to leave that there and really hope that somebody felt a little stirring of something. Here's my hand, lead you out of the dark. Come with me to the promised land where you're free from all this fucking bullshit. And we can just lay in the sun together. Have a good day.